Good evening, people. How you doing this Brews Day? Tuesday Brews Day. Welcome to the Brews at 10 on my left eye. I'm your host Lefty. A very warm welcome to everybody joining me on the stream tonight. Sorry about the delayed start. I was having a bit of a faff with the settings. But we're coming through nice and smooth now. So I hope you're brewing well. What's turning into quite a monumentous week already. And it's only Tuesday. Yeah, I'm already quite riled up / pissed off. In coming onto the stream just before I got on, I was watching some of the latest scenes from Los Angeles, and then they interrupted it with Trump's speech from Fort Worth, which I subjected myself to about 10 minutes or so worth. But, plenty to get my goat. But I've got a good place to come and vent in our little community here. So who have we got in the chats? We got The Truth. Excuse me. First in this evening, we got Nin, Chris, Nina Sadie, and Katie Marshall. How do you brew? Hope you're all having a good evening. As I said, quite a monumentous week. There's still the situation in LA, which I mentioned. Greta Thunberg has returned. Some of the details are coming out about the kidnapping situation. There are still some of the crew of 12 who were in Israel, including the French MEP. Lots to go into there. I've got an extended interview with Greta Thunberg as she returned. You might have seen a few snippets, but I've managed to get my hands on a lengthy clip that we can dive into. What else, people? What else is going on? I'll be talking a bit about the announcement today about nuclear power. Spoiler alert, I'm not particularly impressed. David Lammy's announced sanctions on 2 members of the Israeli cabinet as well, which is a step in the right direction, but again a little bit disappointing because we know this could be far too little, far too late. Neither of the two are Benjamin Netanyahu either. That's another point. Yes, I'll dive into that for a little bit as well. Katie feeling a bit fragile tonight. Are all Scottish Marxists fragile, or? What else was there as well? Oh, it's Yeah, apparently it's turned out that David Cameron had a pop at the ICC over the arrest warrants which were issued to Benjamin Netanyahu. Because the way it goes is the ICC prosecutes individuals, the ICJ deals with countries. So, very specifically, no, Netanyahu, you were a war criminal. Yeah, so like I said, Trump was at Fort Worth when he was giving that speech. Just sum up what I heard before I came to you on the stream. He mentioned his delight in changing the name of an army base back to its old name, which I think was undoing one of Biden's policies. He took a bash at the trans community. He's obviously introduced new rules within the US military to that regard. What else did he say? Oh, he said anybody who's caught burning the American flag should go to prison for a year. And then he started bashing the mayor of Los Angeles and Latinos and was trying to pour heaps of praise on ICE. The ICE, yeah. And that was as far as I got before I joined you. But we'll be going over to live scenes from LA later as this looks to transcend. What would this be now? Day 6? Day 5, day 6? Yes, actually, Robert E. Lee is one of the names that's switching back. It wasn't just the base that he was doing the speech from. He named about 5 or 6, but I remember that one being in there. General Lee speaking. I said General Lee speaking. Okay, moving swiftly on. Make sure that you've hit thumbs up on the stream, people. Please hit share and send us around your social media. You can also join us there at MyLeftEyeUK on Twitter, Blue Sky and Mastodon. Preferably Blue Sky, please, if you have a selection. Alright, people. Somewhat awkward moment. I don't have an opening comedy clip as I would usually on the Brews at 10. But I do have 1 or 2 more formalities to get through before I start with articles and clips and discussion. First of all, this is the very latest. I'm very dry throat tonight. The very latest members list. Here for you perusal. Thank you very much to everybody on the list. I've got back over the 100 mark on yesterday's stream as well. That was awesome. On 101 now. Thanks for all the gifted memberships and to those of you who've renewed recently. Guitar Guy 80, how you doing? How do you brew? How do you brew? Yes, thank you very much indeed. You can join those people on the list for just 99 pence. If you want to check out the perks. An excellent investment, I'd say. Alright, let's bring the chat onto the screen. And there we are, good people. Thank you, Katie. I'm glad you love being a member. It's great to have you here as well in our little community. Small but growing. Right, I'll just get round to deciding which order we're going to do things in, because we've still got a sort of live situation with Los Angeles. I did leave that streaming for a while yesterday when I finished. Realised I had to do something else on the computer, so as amusing as it would have been watching you go through my emails, I don't know, but I had to end the stream at some point. So I think I will do the same again later on. I'm just going to take a look at the latest, because what time are we on now? It's getting towards mid-afternoon in Los Angeles, 8 hours behind us, so just after 2:15 PM. Which is usually, over the last few days at least, where things have started to escalate. Crowds of people have started to convene and grow. Martin Arnold, a very good evening to you. How do you brew, sir? Oh, they've changed the name of the community, but it's called Top Fans now, this new stream feature. So Guitar Guy 80 and 4 others currently on 75 XP, but Guitar Guy has been selected as current leader. Nina Sadie in second. No, sorry, in third. But it's a close contest. Ah, I see. I'm not going to read out individual handles, but I see what one or two of you are doing, and I do appreciate it. I appreciate the extra support. Great stuff, people. So, where were we? Yes, LA. It's probably still on. I don't know how long his speech is due to go on for. It was around half an hour ago when I came away from that. Did you see this thing? I don't have a picture of it. Saw it once or twice going through social media earlier on. Very quickly, but from a picture, and it is just one picture, do you have to say. People have speculated that Trump appears to be wearing a pair of leg braces around his thighs. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything in that. Or he trips over getting onto Air Force One as well the other day, which by his standards means he should immediately resign. Let's see what we've got, people. I'll just bring the screen up. I'll bring my screen up on your screen. Let the screens be melded. Sorry, no, you've not gone deaf, Doc. Mic thing again. Apologies, people. That's Becoming increasingly frustrating, but there is a tech upgrade imminent, I assure you people. Because I'm getting pretty darn sick of it myself. Now I've just got to adjust my monitor settings again. Alright, so I was saying, basically we've got the political version of hero syndrome here. He's manufactured this conflict, this, you know, with ICE. There was obviously going to be a pushback against that, and then he sort of oversteps the mark even further with a massive knee-jerk reaction and causing the National Guard above the head of the governor, which he knows will create an argument, and again, that is manufactured. Let's remind ourselves, people, it's also a massive distraction from these accusations that keep coming from Elon Musk, who has suspiciously appeared today with a black eye. Some people have suggested there was some sort of physical altercation between himself and another White House official, but he, that is Musk, has blamed it on his son, the unfortunately named X. So that's the same as what's happening in Los Angeles. He's instigated this situation, and now he's going to be the great liberator. This is it, it's the sort of God complex mixed in with hero syndrome, which is a pretty dangerous combination, with more than a hint of narcissism thrown in there as well, got to be said. Nina Sadie, thank you very much for the generous super chat there towards the tech upgrade. Absolutely, yeah, and thank you very much to everybody who's helped support the channel. This goes straight back in, don't worry, I've not been booking luxury cruises or anything with the contributions. Thanks once again, everybody. Give a shout out to Nina Sadie there. Solidari-Tea. He's claimed that Los Angeles has been invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy, and then stressed, that's what they are. We will also liberate Los Angeles and make it free, clean and safe again. Oh. Yeah, so this is now just going back to what I mentioned before I came on the stream. When I get to the actual stuff that's going on in Los Angeles, they've obviously had a lot of graffiti. Just, I mean, you know, you wouldn't see me getting a criminal record for spraying things. Honest. Well, we saw one example at the start of tonight's stream, didn't we, people? Apologies, I can't give a shout out to the original uploader of that. I like what a few people have done today on social media. They've blended in footage from the January 6th insurrection into the LA protests in a sort of spot the difference competition. And I don't know about you, but most of the time you hear these condemnations coming from Trump or whoever else, the sort of, you know, you've got room to talk, light starts flashing in your head, and that's one of the things that I automatically think about. So there is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. Trump definitely 100% wanted to pick a fight with this guy. Even though he's a fellow Republican, but Trump doesn't care. Trump has just used the Republican Party as a vehicle to get himself into power. We all know that. He probably, he would politically align himself with anything if he thought it could further himself or enhance his wealth. Because remember, there's only one reason why a billionaire would want to take on a job that pays $100,000 a year, which would be a lot of money to you or I, but merely chicken feed to someone with 9-10 figures. And the reason is corruption, of course. The fox is in the chicken coop. It's to rearrange the framework to suit himself, and it was the same during his first term, and it's going to be even worse this time around. So 100 arrests were made overnight. I think, was it 29 on the first day? I can't remember the last couple of days, the figures. Oh, 96 yesterday, it says. "14 of the arrests were for looting," which I do condemn, of course. That's not standing up for your community, which is what it's supposed to be about. But Newsom's fired back and said that Trump is behaving like a tyrant, not a president. You can't argue with that one, I guess, if you can stomach agreeing with what a Republican says, but Trump makes it all the more easier. Deploying the National Guard and the Marines has cost $143 million. $143 million. According to testimony from US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth. That's £105 million. He says the troops are very well prepared in response to Pete Aguilar's question over reports that troops are sleeping on the floor without food or water. Now, I have heard somebody make mention that a section of the Marines have, in fact, refused, on the grounds of the law, to be deployed to Los Angeles. There could be some... well, that's not mutiny. Well, refusal to carry out an order, essentially, which they're not obliged to do if they're aware that it would break either international or domestic law, which of course it does. The Marines, you're talking about people who are like, just what might they have in their hands, rocks or whatever they can find around them. Traffic cones, things like this. These are the usual things that you see thrown at riots. The police in Los Angeles number in the tens of thousands versus pocketfuls of hundreds of people, or the low thousands. It's just totally unnecessary, even from a law and order point of view, let alone the constitutional legal stuff. But I saw somebody mention in the comments just earlier on, as we got into this, about Trump setting the scene as though he's creating a film, as though it's a sort of movie that he's invented in his head and he's playing it out, and that is a very good point. The man is a fantasist, we certainly know that. He's deluded, and when you have people like that with a lot of money, and now with arguably the most powerful seat of governance in the world, that's a dangerous cocktail. That's a very dangerous cocktail, but we're the ones who are going to get the hangover from it. Okay, so what do we think about this in the chat, people? It looks as though things are quiet at the moment. I'll get back to Los Angeles, that is the story, later in the stream. But for now, we'll move on to other issues. See, the 1992 riots are coming up. Yeah, this is obviously a now world famous historical event, and as years went by, there were obviously legal cases, civil cases as well, with the police officers being involved. Obviously what kicked off the riots initially was them being found not guilty. So yeah, I'm familiar with that. I've seen that. You see these, there were sort of 3 or 4 police officers who, and you know what stop and search or whatever, the term is equivalent to America. But they didn't know that they were being filmed as they beat into this young Afro-American man, Rodney King. And I've seen the footage of that as well, actually. Quite horrifying. Similar cases historically in the UK as well. Is it Stephen Lawrence? Yes, that was it. There was a similar case, and that might have been around the same time. It was just, yeah, back to the Rodney King one as well. That's your sort of... That was where the reputation of the Los Angeles Police Department sort of culminated and accumulated, because they long had apparently a reputation, obviously endemic and systemic racism within the LAPD, as well as a history of violence within procedure, arrest procedure, and so on and so forth. But as far as I recall from what I know about Rodney King, he was actually just physically beaten to death, which is horrible. And I do believe his family fought long and hard and had to campaign for the truth. I can't remember if there were any successes in the civil case that followed off the top of my head. But people now in 2025 might already start to make comparisons. That's as we go, what is it, 5 days as we get into the 5th day of these protests. Albeit, so far, that is, from what I do know about the LA riots, the original LA riots, they were a lot more violent than what we've seen so far. Hence the term riots. These are still protests. It's the police who are being violent. It's the police who are being aggressive. And for some reason, I think it might be from the Rodney King thing. I might have seen this in a documentary or something. Was there some famous footage of, there was a truck, like an articulated lorry, and the driver got pulled out of the lorry during the riots. And that's as far as I can remember, but I'm not sure if that's significant, if that might trigger the memories of anyone who's in the chat who might remember that from 92. Right, let's move on to a different topic now. To make a decision as to what that's going to be. I do like to normally try and segue from story to story. But I think we'll get straight into the latest on the Freedom Flotilla. So yes, Greta has been deported from Israel, but some are still being detained. Some of them refuse to sign deportation orders as sort of political gestures, including the French MEP who's still being held. But first off, I think we'll go through this extended Greta interview. From what I've seen so far, a couple of snippets, really excellent responses. She does a really good job of drawing the conversation obviously back towards the issue of why they were out there at sea in the first place, which is to break the siege in Gaza. So this was as Greta Thunberg returned to the airport.
Thunberg is speaking to reporters. Let's take a listen to what she has to say.
On international waters, we were illegally attacked and kidnapped by Israel and taken against our will to Israel, where we were detained. And then some of us deported, some are still there. There are very big uncertainties because it was quite chaotic and uncertain. So I don't really know what's going on. I haven't had a phone for many days, and
What were the conditions for you over the last few hours?
They were absolutely nothing compared to what people are going through in Palestine, especially Gaza right now. And this is yet another international a violation of international rights, adding to the list of countless of such, especially towards Palestinians, that Israel are committing by blocking and preventing humanitarian aid from entering Gaza. That is illegal.
How did the Israelis treat you? We saw them giving out sandwiches on their social media. How did
Yeah, they probably have posted lots of PR stunt videos. As I said, I have not seen anything. But they did an illegal act by kidnapping us on international waters and against our will, bringing us to Israel, keeping us in the bottom of the boat, not letting us getting out and so on. But that is not the real story here. The real story is that there is a genocide going on in Gaza and a systematic starvation following the siege and blockade now, which is leading to food, medicine, water that are desperately needed to get into Gaza is prevented from doing so. But of course there are many attempts like this mission, both by sea and land, to break that siege and open up a humanitarian corridor.
Could I ask you, did you said you had no contact at all with any of your other colleagues from the boat when you were detained? Is that what you said?
No, that's not what I said. I was just mainly speaking. I don't really know what's going on. Because
you don't know what's going on with the others?
Are you worried
no,
about...
I wasn't able to say goodbye.
Are you worried about the others, that they might be detained for
Yeah, I'm very worried about them. We heard many different messages pointing towards that they would not make it easy. And there were troubles with being able to see lawyers. So I'm very much calling for their immediate release and calling for everyone who can to mobilize to their governments and other ways to demand their immediate release. And of course to demand not only humanitarian aid being let into Gaza, but also a ceasefire, but most importantly an end to the occupation and an end to the systemic oppression and violence that Palestinians are facing on an everyday basis.
Are you disappointed you didn't manage to break the blockade?
I don't know if disappointed is the right word. This is a continued violation of international law and war crimes that Israel are systematically committing against Palestinians by not letting aid come in, by starving people and mass slaughtering in every possible way during a live-streamed, full-blown genocide that the world is watching.
How do you feel about European governments and their position and what they're doing or not doing?
Yeah, both in our case, their silence was complicity with Israel's illegal actions, but most importantly, their complicity in the genocide that's going on now by sending aid, by sending military and financial support to Israel. They are also part of the killings of Palestinians.
There's a conference coming up at the UN. France is thinking of recognizing the state of Palestine. How do you feel about that?
It's the very, very bare minimum. Of course, welcome, but we need so much more than that. When there's even a risk of genocide happening, we have a duty to prevent that from happening. And right now we are so far gone beyond that stage. It is. There are no words to describe the betrayal that is happening every day by our own governments.
You were made the choice. You were offered the choice to return straight away, or for leaving Israel. Can you tell us? You chose to leave Israel straight away. We've been told that people were forced to sign papers in which they recognized they'd entered the country illegally. Did that happen for you?
I did not recognize that I entered the country illegally. I made it very clear in my testimony that we were kidnapped on international waters and brought there against our own will into Israel.
What did Israeli authorities say to you? What did Israeli authorities say?
Just quickly wanted to come in and remind you, apparently they were forced to watch all these propaganda videos of footage from October 7th, 2023. It certainly doesn't seem to have done the trick. Greta's far too educated for any kind of, air quotes, brainwashing shit that Israel were trying to do whilst they were in captivity. And just having a look at what a couple of you are saying in the chat. Martin Arnold, I did see some clips of Piers Morgan, who did appear to be turning a new leaf and actually reporting what is happening within Gaza and holding Israeli spokes to account. But alas, no, it's all ratings for him. It's just all about ratings. So if he thinks that he can get some views out of trying to have a cheap crack at Greta and others, then he'll go for it, unfortunately, because just completely amoral. I don't think there'll ever be a sort of Piers Morgan moral awakening coming on the horizon, whether it's over Gaza or anything else. He's up there with the Lawrence Foxes and all the rest of these grifters, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, Chris, you'd say, well, he just wants to keep his fan base. Piers Morgan's ridiculous gammon fan base.
Were the reasons for your detention and arrest?
Many different things.
Did you have to sign any papers before leaving Israel?
I'm not sure if you can hear the questions coming through okay. Obviously the ones that are from whichever organisation the cameraman's from come through okay, but I'll just try and repeat any that you can't quite make out. Let's just hear this one again.
Many different things.
Will you have to sign any papers before leaving Israel?
He asked her if she had to sign any documents before she left Israel, I think.
Well, depends on what you're referring to.
There were talks about some reporters that had to sign papers that they
Paper where you recognize what you did was illegal.
Yeah, I did not sign that. Why would I?
What do you think you achieved from your mission?
Yes.
This was a mission of trying to, once again, the Freedom Flotilla coalition has been continuously sending boats aiming to break the siege and open up a humanitarian corridor since 2008. And this was one of those missions. And right now, more important than ever, because of the siege and because of the systematic starvation of over 2 million people and the full-blown live-stream genocide, this was a mission of attempting to once again bring aid to Gaza, which is desperately needed, but also to send solidarity and say that we see you, we see what is happening, and we cannot accept just witnessing all this and doing nothing. That can never be an option. I'm terrified at seeing how this extremely deadly passivity and silence is all over the world, leading to so many deaths.
Your opponents and many in Israel accuse you of moral grandstanding.
Could you elaborate?
That you're doing this for the cameras, for the effect.
Well, that is very ironic coming from them, since you just described them doing the PR stunt of them handing out sandwiches or whatever. But
Yeah, did you see that picture? I think it was actually used in the Beeb article I flicked through yesterday, and they were holding out a sandwich for a smiling Greta Thunberg, and oh yes, being treated with such kindness. No, I'm sure that they all got talked to like absolute crap, and really hope that those who are still inside at the moment are being treated. But we know what Israel's track record is on this. They wouldn't care that these are public figures, that the crew of 12 have been all over the media for the last 9 days now, 10 days.
this is our last boat that we were attempting to go on this mission with a month ago. Was a much larger boat with, of course, could fill much more aid. That was bombed twice, and all the evidence strongly points towards Israel.
I've just had a thought. Sorry, it's still on topic, but it's just slightly off what Greta's talking about at the moment. I want to get it in before I move on to something else and forget. But I was... Obviously, the Houthis have been famous for their escapades at sea, shall we say, against Israel and the United States alike. I'm surprised that they didn't throw their hat into the ring, or perhaps maybe I don't know whether it would have been a good idea for the Houthis to come out and maybe say, you know, we'll sort of flank the flotilla or protect the flotilla just in case the IDF show up, because they went in all big and bold, didn't they, the Israel Navy, with this chemical attack. But if, and I'm speaking hypotheticals here, but if they'd have showed up and obviously there was some sort of Houthi escort, they might have thought twice. But then I don't know, that could have created a totally different situation, and also distracted from the fact, as I'm sure Greta will agree, that the main point was getting this flotilla all over the world media, and to be able to highlight the plight of Gazans, with the chances of them actually breaking the siege being particularly small. Had this just been 12 people who nobody had heard about as well, I dare say it might not have even made the news whatsoever. But you had Greta Thunberg involved, and also Liam Cunningham, who was on another vessel, by the way. He's not been detained, kidnapped, seized, captured, whatever, to the best of my knowledge. So, yeah, I don't know if they had to actually sort of officially say to the Houthis, like, you know, thanks, but no thanks. We'll take this one alone if that's okay with you. I wouldn't have recommended it either. Just a thought, just a random thought.
So we made this trip with a smaller boat and a smaller crew because that's all that we had, because they bombed the last boat. And as I said, this
yes,
is
in fact,
about
just very quickly going to come in here. This was a British craft. So it should have had a British naval escort, and we'll see how they like that. I'm not waving. I'm not turning into a flag waver here or anything. But they certainly wouldn't like that up them. And a British naval vessel has been seized and the occupants kidnapped in an act of piracy. Well, we can't have that. We certainly can't have that. More on the UK's reaction to this and other things coming up later with the Lammy stuff as well, of course. But that should have been the way it was. Get the fuck out of the way. We're getting the aid into Gaza.
As much humanitarian aid as we possibly could, while also sending a message of solidarity and hope, telling Palestinians that we stand behind you in this struggle, and we are joining the global uprising of people demanding an end to the oppression and decolonization, not just in the metaphor. So that's...
The aid you agreed was symbolic, it was tiny.
Huh?
The aid you agreed was symbolic.
As I said, the other boat was bombed.
Are you
Greta,
going
what
to
are you
try this
planning to
again?
do in days and weeks to come?
As you can see, I'm desperately in need of a shower and sleep. But what is certain is that we will not stop. We are going to continue to try to do everything we can, because that is the promise that we have given to Palestinians, that we are going to try every single day in every way that we can, keep trying to demand an end to the atrocities that Israel is doing.
Will you try to break the blockade in some way again, by boat or another method?
There will be a march to Gaza happening in the coming week, I think, of people trying to come to the Rafah border, which is yet another attempt to break the siege. So this is definitely not the end. This is going to continue, of course. I don't, which is very worrying, because people were not being...
Just quickly want to come in and say you really have to admire her resolve as well. After everything that she's been through, she's stood here calmly talking to reporters as though it was nothing, as though she's just gotten back from some sort of conference or not. Very collected, very calm. She's not speaking in her first language. She's now obviously very articulate and very well spoken in English, which you'd have to admire as well. But by rights, she could have walked past all of the reporters. Like she said there, she's very tired. She wants to get some sleep. But no, she wants to talk to them. She wants to spread the message. That's why she went out there in the first place. She wants the truth to be heard about what's happened to her. She keeps plugging all of these charities and ways that you can support Gaza. This is... you don't see dedication like this. It's few and far between, and you really do have to admire it, especially from someone so young who's already famous for being a campaigner. It's just difficult to put into words just how very brave it is, and yeah, really do admire that spirit and that resolve, because all of these far right or right wing, whatever, keyboard bashers are the likes of Piers Morgan, Donald Trump, anybody else who likes to get the kicks by taking the piss out of people like Greta Thunberg. I think they wouldn't last 5 minutes in what she's been through over the last couple of days. That's for sure.
Treated well. I was not able to say goodbye to people, and I don't know what's happening. And there were many issues.
When you say they're not treated well, what do you mean?
Well,
Could you elaborate for us?
obviously in a very dehumanizing way. But of course, I have to stress nothing compared to what Palestinians are going through.
But still, can you give us some, what happened to you when you arrived in Ashdod port? I mean, were you taken off the boat? Was there any violence? Were you detained? How? Where?
No, I prefer not to go into details about that. We arrived there, we were detained, and then we were, yeah.
I don't know if you know, but Donald Trump commented about you being stopped in Ashdod. He said,
Oh, did
you're
he?
an angry young woman who needs anger management.
Yeah.
What would you
What
respond?
did he?
How do you
What
feel?
did he say? I have no connection to anything, so I don't know what's happening.
Well, basically, he said that he said he was reacting to what has been said about Israel capturing you. He said, that this is not they've not been kidnapped, so Israel doesn't need that right now. And he said, Greta Thunberg is, I quote, a young angry woman. She needs anger management sessions.
That's of course, you've already mentioned in the chat, very rich coming from someone like Donald Trump, the man-child throwing his toys out of the pram, literally as I speak, as well, making those sort of comments. She's angry. Well, wouldn't you be angry? Can't Donald Trump be angry at these atrocities that Greta and others, me, you, I'm sure, all you viewers as well, are trying to highlight? Maybe try getting angry about that instead of your phony war on woke, your drummed up culture war, and all of this populist far right BS. It's so pathetic, isn't he? Just the exact polar opposite of Greta. You could see the confusion in her face, we've heard some clangers from Trump down the years. Sometimes they just seem to get worse and worse.
Well, I think the world needs a lot of more young, angry women, to be honest, especially with everything going on right now. That's the thing we need most of.
When you set out, what did you gauge your success rate would be?
Sorry?
Was it a success? You feel this was a
What did you gauge your success would be in achieving what you wanted?
We were very well aware of the risks of going on this mission, and as I said before, there has been many previous flotillas on similar missions that have been either attacked, intercepted, or actually reaching Gaza. So, of course, the aim was to get to Gaza and to be able to distribute the humanitarian aid. We were 12 peaceful volunteers sailing on a civilian ship carrying humanitarian aid on international waters. We did not break laws. We did nothing wrong. That the point is that whatever the odds are, we have to keep trying, because right now, when you look at the state of the world, everything feels meaningless. But unless you try to do everything you can, that's when we lose our hope, no?
Just to understand the context, why are you free today and your colleagues are still detained?
That's true. I'd get on the next flotilla. Would you get on the next flotilla? Oh yeah, I'd get on that flotilla. Just messed about my settings here, 1 second. I did try to come into that clip earlier, but my microphone cut out again. Right, I think we're all good now.
That's a bit unclear.
Just want to wind that back a couple of moments.
Or actually reaching Gaza. So, of course, the aim was to get to Gaza and to be able to distribute the humanitarian aid. We were 12 peaceful volunteers sailing on a civilian ship carrying humanitarian aid on international waters. We did not break laws. We did nothing wrong.
Yes, this was it. And from a legal standpoint, Israel was way out of line. Way out of line. Not being hyperbolic in saying that this was an act of international piracy. It was also an illegal detainment, i.e. kidnapping, and you could argue that if they were told that they weren't able to leave unless signing certain documents, that counts as ransom as well, with the signing, as opposed to a ransom for an amount of money or booty, ha ha ha. But a piece of paper, a document, could be considered a ransom, so kidnap and ransom together as well. I mean, that's some proper brown shirt shit right there, isn't it, people? It really is. But at sea, I think, you know, even the famous historical pirates of old, you know, the legendary ones, your Long John Silvers and Bluebeard and all of the rest of this crowd, probably had more of a moral compass than the Israeli Navy, that's for sure.
That the point is that whatever the odds are, we have to keep trying, because right now, when you look at the state of the world, everything feels meaningless. But unless you try to do everything you can, that's when.
I wonder how many people have Googled how much is a boat since this has happened. I haven't. I don't know what you're making such accusations. No, I've not really actually, but yeah, they have to go and they have to go again. And now to add to the list, of course, it's only a minor thing in the scheme of things, but it's the illegal retention of a British naval vessel as well. This is, you know, is this a declaration of war?
We lose our hope, no?
Just to understand the context, why are you free today and your colleagues are still detained?
That's a bit unclear. I and some others signed saying that we wanted to go back as soon as we could, not accepting that we entered the country illegally.
Did you sign anything? She says, well, I wrote "fuck Israel" on the wall of the toilets when I went for a piss.
And some people did not sign that. We were held in also separate places for many amounts of time. So it's a bit unclear. And as I said, I haven't had contact. I wasn't able to talk or say goodbye. But I do know that there were major issues with people actually getting to talk to lawyers.
This is a legal minefield now, isn't it? This is going to go on for years. I mean, just in such a short amount of time, they've probably broken about 20 different laws there.
Yeah. Huh? Why
She asked why she wanted to come back.
would I want to stay in Israeli prison, like, more than necessary?
Why do you think so many countries, governments around the world are just ignoring what is happening in Gaza?
Because of racism, that's the simple answer, I would say. Racism and basically desperately trying to defend a destructive, deadly system that systematically puts short-term economic profit and to maximize geopolitical power over the well-being of humans and the planet. And right now it's very, very difficult to morally defend that. It is impossible, but still they are desperately trying, which is... Absurd is not the word, but there are no words to describe it. Vi kan ta på svenska.
Well, I've got a couple. Fucked up. That's what it is. She walked away from the interviewers at that point. But again, the articulation in that final answer as well was incredible. She's never caught out in interviews. She's always got a response. Just every single sentence is an absolute Absolute banger. So at least it's good to see her in good health as well. That's obviously very important. And I'll still be keeping up to speed with the rest of the detainees and who's managed to return or not. There were 12 people aboard, of course, and one of them was a French MEP. I'm going to move on to that in just a moment. Excuse me. But the show of solidarity for Greta and the crew has been amazing. Check out this clip. This is from Stockholm in Sweden, where Greta Thunberg's originally from. And I believe there were 75,000 people showed up there to support the flotilla. That was worth a couple of watches, just a brief clip there, but what a great turnout. You see the crowds, they're lining the streets, absolutely packed in like sardines in Stockholm. Solidarity for that. Sorry if I've been a bit quiet in the last part of the live stream. I've still got this ongoing microphone issue. Apologies for that. But there was also a great turnout for the French MEP Rima Hassan in Paris. So I've got another little clip here of that one. Again, another great turnout in the tens of thousands. Hassan, Paris is with you. The chant went there, great stuff. From Paris, who, France that is, could be on the verge of recognising a Palestinian state, which would be a great step forward. I think we need to get in line. I'll get on to Lammy and the sanctions in just a moment. I do very quickly want to say though, on that matter, that I heard Lammy yet again mentioned several times that only a two-state solution is possible, and that is what he's going to be pushing for. So if there's a two-state solution, then by default that means recognising Palestine as a state. And every single reporter, every single time he mentions that, should say which two states. And then he'll have to say, well, Israel and Palestine. And then so Palestine's a state. Got to get Lammy on the record about that one. More on that very shortly though, very, very shortly. But you heard Greta say in those interviews there that there will be further efforts, and some of them have actually started immediately. I mentioned yesterday that there's a 7,000 strong convoy made up of 1,000 vehicles on its way from Tunisia and Turkey as well, I believe. So check this out. And just flip. Pause that. The microphone's malfunctioning. You know, these lots of vehicles. You can see there. Sorry about the delay. It's this thing again. It happened when I turned the background music back up that time. Yeah, I don't know what the piss frig is going on with the microphone tonight. So they were just the early stages of the convoy on the way to Gaza, and they're due to get there on the 12th, which will be Thursday. So I'll keep you posted on that one as they head there from Turkey and Tunisia.
As you can see, we're experiencing a minor technical difficulty here on my left eye. Our team of expertly trained technicians are working busily to restore the stream. In the meantime, please make sure that you've hit the thumbs up button harder than you'd like to hit Keir Starmer in the ghoulies, and left a comment down below. Thank you.
Oh god, I think this microphone needs to go in that dumpster as well, people. Sorry about the delay in getting back to you there. Once again. Right, let's skim through this before it happens. So these two bastards, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, they're the ones who have been sanctioned. Again, it's important to remember that Lammy has neglected to bring Netanyahu himself into this, who is of course the ultimate instigator. But he is in league, of course, with Smotrich and Gvir. Genocidal maniacs, both. So there's been a freeze of assets and they're banned from travelling into the UK. This is also kind of a bit of personal payback, I think, from Lammy for the time that he went all the way over there and they wouldn't speak to him. I think it was just after he'd, again, only for show, in the House of Commons dared to very slightly, lightly, loosely criticise Israel, so they didn't allow him in, and he had to make the long journey back again. So it's handbags, not at 10 paces, at thousands of miles. They've both openly admitted intentions to commit war crimes, of course, including starvation, including cutting off of power, for example. And also, I think, twinned with the fact that that was a British vessel. There's been this response, but it's been a long time coming, and I would like to see full sanctions and a full trade embargo. Just for what it's worth, though, this is what Lammy's had to say. He said it's outrageous that elected representatives and members of the government are subjected to these kinds of measures. And that Ben-Gvir and Smotrich had incited extremist violence and serious abuses of Palestinian human rights. Ain't that the truth, people? They've hit back, so this is, they've actually remembered that, you know, the 1940s was a thing, even though it's not in living memory, but historically. So Smotrich, speaking at an inauguration of a new settlement in the West Bank, you know, of all places, said he felt contempt towards the UK's move. He also added, Britain has already tried to once prevent us from settling the cradle of our homeland. What a load of crap. Don't give me this 3,000 years ago, this and that bullshit. It's historically inaccurate, it's biblically inaccurate, and it's also legally been debunked as well. He added, we are determined to continue building, God willing. So he's alluding to the period when Britain governed Palestine and imposed restrictions on immigration from the late 30s to the late 40s, and then of course we had the Balfour Declaration after that. Oh, the BBC have actually mentioned the Nakba in an article, although they've referred to it as the 1967 Middle East War. No mention of how many Palestinians were killed in that period, though. I'm sure that when you know what we're going to find when we get at the end of this article, don't you people? There's no prizes for guessing that. I'll very quickly skim through the rest. So that's pretty much it. Let me know in the chat, let me know in the comments what you think the sanctions and impositions actually should be. I think a full trade embargo should be going along with that as well. As well as hopefully some appearances and convictions in The Hague as well, which might not come for a while, but I do hope that we get there. I hope that we also see reparations in the future for Gazans. And it definitely should be Israel, the United States, that should pay. We've been complicit for the last 20 months as well. So of course what Gvir and Smotrich are essentially trying to say in their comeback towards Lammy is, How dare you? This isn't what we pay you to say. This isn't what we pay you to do. That is the lobbyists. But recently, a few weeks ago, UK, France and Canada denounced the announcement of the expanded Israeli offensive on Gaza and continued blockade, and warned of concrete response. Then the day after, the UK suspended free trade talks with Israel, sanctioned settlers, and we summoned Israel's ambassador. And then a short time later, Israel tried to link that to the shooting that happened at the Israeli embassy. But I think that's, again, quite a despicable move. And wouldn't you know it, people? Look at that. If that paragraph looks familiar, yeah, it's because it's at the end of every BBC article, along with some inaccurate statistics, some underestimates about the number of people who've been killed. Get these two men in prison via international courts as quickly as possible. Right, I'm done with these. Let's get them off the screen. Pair of wankers, so they are. Oh yeah, I did have another few bits of information about that other convoy. Just quickly going back to that before I get on to David Cameron for a moment, brief moments. The old pig. By the way, I'm still under review for Sunday's stream, where I might have used a particular word that rhymes with Jeremy Hunt quite a few times. It was relevant to the topic in hand, I've got to say. It wasn't a blind rant. Just a moment while this loads up, people. I'll be very quick on Cameron. Because actually I think Helena at No Justice and Kevin Logan went through that in detail on their streams yesterday, so do check that out. I think there's a segment video out there on No Justice at No Justice MTG that goes into it in a bit more detail. Noticed that one flying around earlier. Shout out as well for the raid yesterday, by the way, if you are watching, perhaps back later on. Helena and Kev, Solidari-Tea for that. I think this would definitely be worth keeping up to speed with as well. So the convoy itself is called Samud, which means fastedness in Arabic. They left yesterday. As I said, 7,000 registered participants, with over 1,000 activists on the move. 12 buses, 100 support vehicles. We'd need a lot more than that for 7,000 people. How big are these buses? Must be the size of hotels. The convoy brings together doctors, lawyers, union leaders and volunteers from across North Africa in a mass show of solidarity with Gaza. So they'll travel through Libya and Egypt and are set to reach Gaza's southern border near Rafah, just 50 kilometres from Arish, with entry unlikely. Organisers say the goal is to raise global pressure and show Palestinians they're not alone, echoing international calls to lift the blockade and end the starvation of civilians. Yeah, again, excellent, and I'm sure the trolls are all out on social media over the flotilla as well, but I would just like them to imagine if they were in a situation where they've not eaten for days, the family haven't eaten for days, perhaps what's left of their family, we should say as well. Just to know that somebody is trying to get it through to you can raise and inspire a great amount of hope, as little chance as there actually might be, but you'd be there thinking, why isn't anybody doing anything about this? So I think it's, yeah, absolutely, you know, it's just keyboard bashing. And I'll keep you up to speed, of course, with Samud, steadfastness. Well, we have to be, really, let's be honest. Now then, people. Now then. How's about this one? Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola was at the University of Manchester. Yeah, Manchester. Here today. And gave a speech to graduates in which he mentioned Gaza and held no quarter as well in just how scary a situation it is. So well done, Pep. That's the manager of Manchester City, who've won the Premier League 4 out of the last 5 years, didn't you know?
It's so painful what we see in Gaza. It hurts me all my body. And let me be clear, it's not about ideology. It's not about I'm right and you're wrong. Come on. It's just about the love of life, about the care of your neighbor. Maybe we think that we see the boys and girls of 4 years old being killed for a bomb, or being killed at the hospital because it's not hospital anymore. It's not our business. Yeah, fine. We can think about that. It's not our business. But be careful. The next one will be ours. The next 4, 5 years old kids will be ours. Sorry, but I see my kids, Maria, Marius and Valentina.
Just pause that for a moment. I'm just going to go back. It wasn't. Had a bit of a connection problem on YouTube Studio. I think it's back now. It was doing the circly thing, but it's all good now.
At the hospital because it's not hospital anymore. It's not our business. Yeah, fine. We can think about that. It's not our business. But be careful. The next one will be ours. The next 4, 5 years old kids will be ours. Sorry, but I see my kids, Maria, Marius and Valentina, when I see every morning since the nightmare started, the infants in Gaza. And I'm so scared. Maybe this image feels far away from where we are living now. We're silent in the face of injustice, feel safer than speaking out. I am deeply troubled by the images the world sees in real time in Sudan, in Ukraine, in Palestine, in Gaza. We see the horror of thousands and thousands of innocent children, innocent mothers and fathers, innocent entire families suffering, starving, being killed. And yet, we are surrounded by leaderships in many fields, not just politicians, in politics, who don't consider the inequality, vulnerability,
Guardiola there. That's University of Manchester. Really great stuff, I'm sure you'll agree. But also, want to highlight one thing he mentioned there. Essentially saying if it's Palestinians now, then the far right are going to come for you next, and that's entirely true. It's not just because we have sheer empathy and human sympathy that we support Gaza. It's something that's overlooked. And he didn't mind dropping a couple of F-bombs there. You know, I'm sure we're all fucking scared, as he said. Sometimes when you think about what this might lead to, unless we stand up to it, people. That's the main thing. Okay. Just see where we're going to next. Well, yeah, just sit through this thing with Cameron, really. There's not a lot to it. It turns out he criticised the ICC when they issued the arrest warrants, of course, for Benjamin Netanyahu. Like I said, if you want some really good more detailed analysis, then go and check out Kevin Helena's conversation on No Justice and Kevin Logan, respectively. And it's Peter Auborn who's done a piece in Middle East Eye about this, so...
As you can see, we're experiencing a minor technical difficulty here on my left eye.
But at the moment, thank you. Yeah, from my left eye to Middle East Eye. By threatening the ICC, David Cameron has disgraced Britain. The former Foreign Secretary should be held accountable for his blatant attempt to bully the court in defence of Israel. And he has this, you know, sort of podgy-cheeked sort of smile about him that might fool a lot of people, but this is a pure Etonian. This is your classic Etonian right here. He's always had it his own way. They are brought up to be bullies. That is the way they are in school, that's the way that they are in further education, and that's the way that they, you know, once the door has been opened for them at the end of their private public school education, I should say, it continues. You've probably all seen that famous picture where it's Johnson and Cameron and Osborne in the same picture at Eton, and they're wearing the old-fashioned tuxedos with the ducktails and whatnot. The top hat bastards. One really good point I heard during Kevin Helena's conversation, I think it was Kev, that made the point, was that as tough as he talks and as tough as he acts, as soon as there was any sign of trouble, again, because he's had the comfortable life, David Cameron just immediately fucked off out the door. And that was the day after the EU referendum vote. He thought, fuck this. I'm not going within 1,000 leagues of that. But do check out their full conversation. Make sure that you queue that one up or bookmark it. later. And he threatened to withdraw the UK from the ICC as well. Typical. I'm not going to go into this at a granular level. Those are the main points though. But ever since he stepped down, he's sort of, you know, dipped his head above and below the parapet. Of course, he came back into office in a rather undemocratic fashion as well a few years ago, and then fucked off. And then we continuously hear about these financial scandals as well from when he was Prime Minister. I think it was Helena actually described him as austerity patient zero, which is a good way of putting it, because it all began with him. Things like, what were the early austerity policies? Things like a pasty tax. The pasty tax. It's Sheriff of Nottingham times, people. On to another matter now. Just one moment, you might have heard this thing today about nuclear reactors. Of course, I, your host, I'm an environmental and political ongoing campaigner and protester. So, climate issues is my number one topic, and especially the UK's response to the climate crisis as well. Slight preface before I go into this article about Ed Miliband's plans for nuclear power. I'm sure a lot of you are already aware that time not only is running out, but it has run out to have the most effective results against the climate crisis. Unfortunately, that time has passed. We've not transitioned away from fossil fuels quick enough. The fight obviously still goes on, so we're way behind. We need obviously a massive transition to renewables and energy security, which would come with it, not just now, but yesterday. In fact, a year or two ago now, according again to the top scientists, the world's leading experts on such things. So that's where we're at. And Miliband's solution: we're going to start some nuclear power plant projects that might not go online for like 15 or 20 years. Welcome to the Slow Clap Awards. Here are the nominees for category of the too little, too late on the climate crisis. Yeah. Nominee number 1, David Miliband. Now, where do I begin? Where do I begin? Yeah, the projects like this take a lot of time. They generally go over the expected completion date. They almost all of the time go upwards of double over the original budget, original costs. And there won't be a single atom of energy that will be released from any of these plants for, say, around 15 years, perhaps even 20. Miliband optimistically is saying 10, which you obviously know from a standpoint that that's not going to happen. You think there's just something about massive infrastructural projects that this country seems to have failed at recently. Historically, you know, we've had some amazing and incredible engineers and scientists and discoveries and whatnot, and we still do, but in terms of societal infrastructure, we just seem to have lost the plot. Especially when you, like the travel infrastructure, for example, you compare that to most of Europe now, countries like Japan as well, obviously, with the hyper trains and whatnot. That's not Hyperloop, that's Musk's ridiculous effort there, which never got off the ground. But then you look at HS2 here in the UK. So it always happens, and then, so, okay, let's, yeah, again, if we say 15 years, we're looking at 2040. So imagine your life in 2040, by which time we could be guaranteed to pass 3.5 degrees of average temperature rises. And you can set up tidal and wind power in a matter of months for a fraction of the cost, and it gets you energy now. And obviously there's no CO2 output, there's no nuclear waste to have to deal with. But there's no money in that, is there? There's no private money. You can't... That is the problem. That is the thing that is holding us back. Obviously, I'll go just bring it slightly back to transportation again, because it's just a classic example where failures in infrastructure are concerned, as well as utilities, of course. But whenever they create anything new, they always have to figure out a way that private hands can get wealthy from it. That's the only way it will get the green light. That's the only way it gets the seal of approval, is, again, if the already rich get even more wealthy from whatever is introduced. The training of thought, where they're concerned, isn't how can we provide such and such for the citizens of this country. It is how can we milk as much goddamn money out of this as possible. But where climate's concerned, at the end of the day, it's an absolute necessity that we've got to transition towards renewables like yesterday, like years ago. So I'm not getting a small violin out for some people who might lose some private profit over it. And if a lot of people base their wealth on a finite resource in the first place, then I wouldn't say that's particularly wise as an investment. So what do you think about this nuclear stuff, people? Let me know in the chats, of course, or in the comments if you're watching back on a replay. And I know that you've checked that you've hit that thumbs up button, right, people? Okay, something slightly more cheerful next. For fans of music.
Do you like a hot, tasty beverage with your music? Then My Left Eye has got a treat for your ears. The Brews at 10, the album, all your favourite beverage-based hits from the 1960s to now, all in one place.
Volume 10 is now available, featuring Nothing Compares to TU, Sinead O'Connor, Get On Cup, James Brown, Hold Tea, Thrill Tea, Kiss Tea, Kill Tea, Brew 2, You Can't Brew That, The Beatles, Tea in the Sahara, The Police, plus many more. Order now.
Yeah, that bit at the end has been me like 20 times on tonight's stream with the microphone. Gotta look into that. Time to give a shout out to the members. Thanks a lot for all your contributions, people. Mobius, I'm glad you're liking the skits and stuff. Yeah, that was volume 10 now of the Brews at 10. I might keep it as a long-running feature. I've not done a Pat McFadden experience for a while, so I might be doing another one of those soon. I've got a couple of ideas for that. But anyway, people, members, the Brew crew, thanks a lot for renewing everybody who's done that. Gifted memberships, as well as super chat and super stickers on tonight's stream. Thanks again for those. Super thanks are active if you're watching back later on. So I'm looking out for a raid, and if there isn't a raid, then we'll go over to the one of the live feeds in Los Angeles. But I'm pretty sure there are some regular Tuesday streamers out there, so let's see who we've got. But we have No Justice, so I'll responding kind to yesterday's generous raid. I'll see you over there. Make sure that you hit thumbs up when we get over. Was Rathbone actually live? It did come up, but it said upcoming. I've selected Helena now. That's my final choice, and obviously it's a bit of a gesture for yesterday's raid as well, which I'd like to do. So that'll be that. If that's all good with you people. Awesome. Okay, so I'll be back with you for PMQs tomorrow, I believe. But I'll be seeing you over on No Justice's stream in just a moment. So thanks a lot for being with me tonight. I've been your host Lefty. This has been the Brews at 10 on My Left Eye. Take care everyone. Be seeing you soon. Free Palestine and power to the people.